All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me. I am Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration. I'm really grateful to each of you for having joined me here this morning for another one of our calls related to the coronavirus and trying to keep our mindset in the right place and trying to keep our a positive mental attitude even with the uncertainty that's around us. As always on these weekly calls, my plan for today is to start with a little update about the coronavirus, and then I'll do an update related to immigration. I'm going to talk just briefly about the CARES Act, which is the economic stimulus package. And I'll talk a little bit about my own philosophy, mindset, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. All right? I do plan on finishing our call by 10:45 this morning, so keep it to 45 minutes. My talk will be probably shorter than most days here today, and so please do have your questions. I'd love to have as much participation as people want. So perfect. We'll jump right in here. Let's start with the update regarding the coronavirus itself. So the total cases right now, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, is 579,005 cases, all right, in the United States, all right? And the total deaths reported is 22,252 deaths that have happened as a result of this virus. And so those figures are increasing week on week, and the rate at which they are increasing is going down, all right? And so I do think that people can see that the shelter-in-place orders that we're doing are helping to slow the increase. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind. Another thing, I always like to explain it, that, hey, this total number of cases, 579,000, it does sound like a lot, and it is out of the entire United States. And remember, we live in a country with 327 million people, and so we are talking about a fraction of a percent of our population actually has confirmed cases of this virus. So it's important to keep that in mind, keep it in perspective. While it is taking up a huge percentage of the news, a huge percentage of our own minds, it is actually affecting, as far as like actually infecting, right, a much smaller percentage of our actual population. That's not to undermine how serious of an issue it is, but I always have this goal of seeing things exactly how they are and not seeing things for worse than they are. And so I always want to communicate that every week. Another good news, I would say, is if you compare the number of confirmed cases with the total deaths, right? If you compare that, this virus, and actually the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, estimates that this virus has a mortality rate of 3.4%, all right? And as many of us are aware on the news, that it is causing deaths disproportionately in people who are over, I believe, the age of 75. I was just looking that up, actually. And very, very disproportionately over the age of 80. And so I just want to put that in perspective also. The history, looking back at Europe at the time of the bubonic plague in the 15th century, You know, the estimates say that it was anywhere between 30 to 60% of those who got the plague in Europe died from it. And this virus has a much less mortality rate than anything related to those figures. You know, at 3.4%. As opposed to like 30%. All right, so really the chances are, if we were to actually get this virus, the chances are overwhelmingly great that we would survive it. All right, and I really want us to stay positive and stay optimistic that humanity as a whole is definitely going to see this thing through the end. So just to say that, right? For those who have just joined us, thank you for joining us. I'm Otis Landerholm, founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration A.P.C., where we fight for your American dream. And I'm really grateful to be able to have these conversations each week to discuss immigration, to discuss the coronavirus, and also to have an opportunity to keep our mind focused on things that we can control and keep our mind focused on the positive things that are happening in our lives as much as possible. All right? So, perfect. So I've talked about the coronavirus and my little update there. As far as immigration, really there hasn't been much changes to the immigration system since our last call. Basically, immigration court is still closed. We're closed through May 1st for non-detained cases, all right? Detained cases are still going forward, all right? And in fact, our office is fighting a case for one of our clients who's detained this week. We actually have a trial on Friday this week. And so we are sending our, good wishes, good vibes, good luck to that particular case and their family. We hope to win this case this week. USCIS, if your case is filed and you're filing for a green card, USCIS is closed for in-person services through May 3rd. And so just be aware of that. For other cases, like consular cases, things like that, be in touch with your lawyer, be in touch with your office if you have questions about it. But the vast majority of immigration cases are not moving forward right now with in-person services, although it is still possible to file your immigration case. If you have a work permit or if you have a immigration case that you want to file, heck, now is a great time to file your case. All right? So that's all I'm going to say for the immigration update. For the CARES Act, all right, so the CARES Act is the economic stimulus package. Congress has passed a $2.2 trillion stimulus package, all right? And much of that money is going towards businesses. Much of that money is going towards the states to help for their unemployment demands, the people that are applying for unemployment. Much of that money is going for hospitals. They've also moved the tax deadline back from April 15th to July 15th. And some of this money is going for rebate checks for individuals. And some of the rebate check money has actually already started to come out. I have heard that some of those checks are actually being released right now. The way those are being released is they're being released first to people who have direct deposit slips in with the IRS, for people who have their, who have paid taxes and who are eligible to receive the rebate checks. And so just to be super clear, like the question is, which immigrants are eligible to receive these rebate checks, all right, related to the economic stimulus? And so the way that works is this bill is a tax bill, not a immigration bill, all right? And so it's a tax definition as to who gets to receive it and who doesn't. But the bottom line is if you are filing your taxes with a valid social and you have a valid work permit, all right, you should be eligible to receive the economic stimulus check. The same thing is true to receive unemployment, all right? If you have a valid EAD and a valid Social Security number, you should be eligible to receive unemployment benefits if you were to lose your job, all right? And so bottom line is if you have TPS, if you have DACA, if you have an EAD based on a pending application for adjustment of status, if you have an EAD, an employment authorization document based on a pending application for asylum, if you have a Social Security card based on those immigration documents, then you should be eligible to receive this rebate, all right? And you'll receive it more quickly if you have already filed either your 2018 or your 2019 taxes. If you haven't filed either of your 2018 or 2019 taxes, the IRS is recommending that you do that quickly, all right? And when you file, the simplest thing is to submit a form with your tax filing to request a refund through direct deposit, because the direct deposit form will allow the stimulus package to be sent directly to your bank account, all right? There's no like separate application that you need to do to receive that money, all right? And just for everybody's benefit, you know, I am going to be doing a webinar on this topic on Friday, all right? And it's going to be at 2 p.m. in English on this Friday, this is Pacific time, or at 2:30 p.m. in Spanish this Friday. And I'll have a PowerPoint and I'll explain all of the elements of the CARES Act just to make sure that we're all clear, all right? Because yes, the individual rebates that I'm talking about, the $1,200 checks per individual if you made less than $75,000 of adjusted gross income for the year, that's one piece of it. But there are also other pieces of it, and so I want to go into that in much more depth in my webinar on Friday. For example, if you're self-employed, you might be eligible for business-related help, right, and assistance and benefits. We've also been getting the question like, okay, if I apply for this rebate, is this going to affect my immigration process? And the truth is that no, it will not. And so don't worry about that. If you are eligible for the economic stimulus, take it. And the government has been clear that this is not a quote-unquote public benefit for the purpose of the public charge issue. This is completely, it's actually a tax credit. And so just like other tax credits, it's not like a public benefit that you would apply for and things like that. So do not worry about public charge issues. If you are eligible for this rebate, then please do apply for it. All right? Other questions about that, please join me for my monthly seminar, which will be on Friday, 2 p.m. in English, and I'll have a PowerPoint, and we'll go over the economic stimulus package in much more depth and how it applies to immigrants. Also, I discussed this in a little bit more depth on our last call from last week, which was April 8th. And we have these calls posted on YouTube. And if you want a copy of it, or if you didn't get a copy already in your email, then please contact our office. Let us know. We can get you that information. Sweet. All right. So now I want to switch gears. It's 10:15. We're going to move quicker through today's call than many of the previous calls. And I want to get into my own philosophy, my own mindset. And really what I want to discuss today is how to stay happy. Happiness. Like, what is happiness? And I want to have that conversation with us here today. So the truth is that a lot of people tell me and comment to me that that they find me to be a very happy person. All right, and I feel that way about myself. I feel like I am fortunate to be a very upbeat, quick to smile, got a spring in my step when I'm walking, happy person. All right, and part of that is, I think, just luck. Part of it is mindset, and part of it is a decision, right? To start my day out and to focus on things that keep me positive and that keep me focused on the things that I can control and not focusing on the things that I can't. All right. So here's the truth. I'm a pretty happy person. All right. And it's also true that it hasn't always been that way. And some of you may know this, and some of you may not. I don't often share it, but you know, in 2013, so I opened our firm, this law firm, which I love, by the way. I opened this firm in 2011, and in the end of 2012 and in 2013, our firm was facing some serious challenges. And the truth is that when I opened this firm, you know, I was a lawyer fresh out of law school. I had never worked in a law firm before, and I didn't really know. I knew the law, but I didn't really know how to like manage a team. I didn't know how to effectively run a law firm. And so there was a time in 2013 where I had to really confront reality, and we were very, very close to losing everything. And it was scary. Like, that was not a happy time. That was like really, really scary. And you know, we were losing money every single month. And you might think, well, gosh, like, how could a law firm be in that situation? Well, trust me, it's actually more common than you might expect. All right, and I actually went 2 years without paying myself anything, right, in order to dig ourselves out of a hole that was a financial hole that I had caused. And it was a pretty sad and nerve-wracking. Not sad so much, but I was just nervous during those 2 years. And for those who are listening who were on my team at that time, might remember me being pretty anxious or me being pretty I don't know, just nervous at that time. And I think right now, in the world, there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of that nervous tension, and so I want to kind of share what I went through a little bit, and also just share that, okay, like, how do we keep happy, and how do we go through rough patches in our lives, which we've all gone through, and make no mistake, if this is one of them for you, we will get through this. All right, and so you know, the question is, okay, how can we get through this? How can we keep things in perspective? And how at the end of this can we continue to feel joy, feel happiness for ourselves? All right. The other thing that I want to share is, so yes, I'm a happy guy. Yes, it hasn't always been that way. You know, another time in my life where I certainly wasn't very happy is when my parents were going through their divorce. That was very sad for me, and it was hard for me. I wasn't happy at that time. All right, so that's kind of a couple of instances in my own life where I was less happy, right? And right now, right, I know that there is a lot of suffering out there. All right, just this week I had a call with a client who was crying on the other line because she will not qualify for unemployment because the government has not yet approved her work authorization. All right? And so she's lost her job, and she won't qualify for unemployment, and she's really, really nervous about, like, okay, how is she going to pay her rent? How is she going to pay for food? Things like that. Like, that is a serious challenge, and it is it's happening more and more. And I want to just send out my own love and care and support to everyone who is going through that and who's facing that situation, because it's awful, right? I mean, I really hate to see anyone suffer, especially people that I care about, but really anyone, right? And so, okay, in that, I want to share some training that I've received, all right? And what I want to share, and it may or may not be helpful during this time, quite frankly, but I hope that it's of some help. What I want to share is a training that I received from Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins is for those who aren't aware, is a nationally renowned, kind of world-renowned, actually, mental health and more than that, business, etc., coach. And very, very, I respect him a lot, how he approaches mindset, all right? And I've used his trainings in my own life in a lot of different contexts. So this training comes from Tony Robbins, and it's a training on what we call the formula for happiness, all right? So if we think of happiness as having a formula that is mathematic in some ways, I want to explain what this training is, all right? So what he says is that happiness comes through the following formula, all right? It is when our quote-unquote life conditions, our circumstances in our lives are better than or equal to our own blueprint for how our life conditions ought to be. All right, so let me repeat that. Tony Robbins says that the formula for happiness is when our life conditions are equal to or better than our own blueprint for how they ought to be. When life conditions equals our blueprint. All right? And so the thing to consider there is, one, to get really, really clear on what our current life conditions are right now. All right? And that is tricky. It's the challenge with life conditions or with the circumstances that we are currently facing. The trick with that is to, and I've said this actually every week on this call, the trick with that is to see them for as they are and to not see them for worse than they are. All right? Often our mind wants to go towards, oh, we see things in our lives worse than they actually are. All right? And so we want to look as objectively as we can at where our lives really are and what the conditions of our lives really are. So that's on the life condition side of this formula. All right? And then the other thing that we need to evaluate, which is sometimes a little bit less obvious, the other thing that we need to evaluate is what is our personal blueprint? What are we comparing our present situation to? All right? And, you know, do we think that we, you know, by this time in our lives, we should be millionaires and we should be, you know, driving the nicest cars and we should be financially free and, you know, we should have our family all, you know, perfect without issues? I mean, if your blueprint is perfection, like everything everything in your life is absolutely perfect, then you will never have happiness. Let me say that again. If your blueprint for how you think your life ought to be is perfection, then you're never going to be happy, because your life conditions will never equal like the perfect life out there. All right? So it's a challenge, right, to stop for a moment and to think about, okay, what do I really expect for my life right here, right now? And why is that my blueprint? Like, where does that come from? Like, did I get that from my parents? Have I thought this since 3rd grade or something? That, like, okay, by the time I reached this age, I would already have X, Y, and Z things of stability or whatever, right? Like, if you have something that's like in your own personal mindset, your own personal plan, your own personal vision for how your life ought to be, it's worth really stepping back and looking at it, because sometimes that thing sets your life up for frustration that's unnecessary. And sometimes it sets our lives up for just like always feeling unhappy, like we're not meeting somebody else's expectations, or we're not meeting our own expectations for ourselves. All right? I hope that that makes sense. And so that's the formula for happiness. All right? And so the opposite of that is, okay, so what's the formula for unhappiness? Right? If you want to be unhappy, it's basically the same thing, right? It's when unhappiness is when your life condition does not equal or is not greater than your own personal blueprint. All right? In your own, or in our own minds. So if our own life circumstances are not matching up to where we think they ought to be, then that causes us a feeling of unhappiness. And this might be, you might be super happy in one area of your life, and you might be unhappy in one area, and you might be super happy in another area. Maybe your relationships are going great, but your finances are not where you want them, right? And so, okay, what's your blueprint in that area? All right, and is that holding you back from actually being joyous? All right? Okay, so that's the formula for happiness and the formula for unhappiness. The third one is, what's the formula for suffering? The formula for suffering, like really having a breakdown, is when you have the life conditions are not equal to your blueprint, and, so like plus in the formula, and you feel that it's impossible to change it. I'll repeat that. The formula for suffering is if you have life conditions, your current life conditions are not matching your blueprint, and you feel that it's impossible to change it. If that's the way you feel, then you're in a dark place. Like it's like your own personal feeling is that there's no hope. All right, because you feel it's impossible to change. All right, and so it's important to know that, or at least I hope it's helpful to know that and to think it through, because sometimes we might feel that the situation is impossible to change, and sometimes it's just not so. Sometimes it's not accurate. All right? Sometimes there are ways to change it, and that's where, working with a coach, or working with somebody who can hold you accountable, or working with someone who can really challenge you on your thinking about where you're at in your life can make all the difference. All right? And so yeah, I just wanted to talk through that lesson We call it the formula for happiness. And I want each of you to think about, okay, how does that apply in your life? And how could you maybe alter your own blueprint or think about things in a new way to bring joy into your life? Ultimately, in my philosophy, right, we are alive and we are on planet Earth for a limited period of time. And in my opinion, humanity and life was not created here to suffer, period, right? And in my opinion, we should get the most out of this life that we possibly can, including feel as joyous and as good and as great and as much love and joy and happiness in our hearts as we possibly can as human beings in this short time that we have together. And I really hope that for each and every one of you listening to our call, and ultimately for each and every one of our clients, and really for each and every one of us human beings all together on this planet right now. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say today. It is 10:30, all right? And so we have 15 minutes-ish for Q&A. If you do have a question, please hit *6 to ask it. And if you don't have a question, that's totally fine. Hit *6 anyway, and share something with me. You know, I want this to be interactive as much as possible. And if we have questions, great. If we don't have questions, hey, we can just end the call here. That's fine too. But please do, if you're listening, hit *6. Tell me one thing that you got out of my call today, or tell me one thing that you're going through in your life, and let's have a conversation. All right, Christy, do we have any questions?
No, we do not.
All right. Cool. So everybody's super clear. Everybody's super joyous and happy. Oh, cool. We have a question.
From phone number ending in 5569.
Hi.
All right.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Curtis. I'm sorry, I was a little late. Did you mention anything about the court reopening, or what's the status with the immigration court?
Yes, good. Yes, I mentioned it very briefly, but there hasn't been a change since last week. Basically, all immigration court hearings have been postponed until after May 1st.
Okay.
And so anyone that had a non-detained court hearing during the month of April will get a reschedule notice. We are still waiting to receive many of those notices. But yes, all immigration court hearings through the month of April have been postponed, and we'll be waiting to see when they get scheduled again.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
I have something to share.
Sure, please.
This is unprecedented. My entire family is on the healthcare one in the food industry. We received the first COVID in the Bay Area. We had to do it real quietly. When it started, it was like the federal marshal was with the patients. And now we have nurses and coworkers and getting tested positive or being quarantined. We haven't lost anyone yet. Just the culture is going to change. Next time, I mean, all the stuff you call about is wonderful. We're talking about reopening things. I'm seeing coworkers daily come to work in fear and in tears, and childcare issues, and a whole bunch of difficult time they're going through. And I have a lot of free time now because I don't work as much, and so I help them a lot. It just, people need help. People have
for sure.
a lot more fear. a lot more fear than they have positive thinking, and I really appreciate you bringing the positive spin in things. And our culture is going to change. The world's going to change in a matter of a couple of years. So it's positive. Just think positive.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, you work in healthcare, and so you...
Yeah, I'm called the front line.
Yeah, you're on the front line.
First to Costco. Yeah, my wife and I, we got to go to Costco for free. I mean, walking, we don't have to wait in the line, that's going to be a thing in the future too. So,
right.
Can
I ask you?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So with that, and you know, you're seeing it in action a lot closer than most people.
Yeah.
How do you stay positive with all of the sadness around and with all of the challenge?
Well, I got in this field to help people, and it is something that we have to deal with. It's unfortunately, even the doctors don't have any answers, and the only thing that depresses me, we are not in a third world country, and we're just now practicing what we know, which is not a lot. We do the best we can, and we celebrate the many victories, and we deal with the rest as is. And we just got to be positive. You know, in medicine, you just got to say, okay, this is the evidence, this is the science, this is what we can do, and sometimes miracle happens, you know, and don't take this for granted. This thing is so serious. We don't know how to deal with it at the moment, and that depresses me more than anything else. The ability to help people, to make a change, make people comfortable. We run out of equipment. I personally have to spend hundreds of dollars, send more than hundreds of dollars, and send them personal protective gear, and also send it to my daughter, who's in the healthcare industry.
Wow.
And it's no joke. And when I first heard people like, oh, this is no big deal, it's like a flu, I keep telling people, I started wearing masks in like Home Depot and Costco, and people like, you think that could stop the virus? And you know what I would do is say, you know what, what makes you think that I don't have it? And they got really quiet. I said, well, you know, so, well, it's really depressing to see nurses are like freaking out. I have coworkers like, I'm not going to get the patient, you go. And it's like, because they're afraid they're going to get sick. Once they get sick, the whole family gets sick. This thing is so very contagious. It's worse than TB or any disease that we see in the hospital. So we actually turned parking lot into tents, you know, just in case. So we'll prepare, but you have to stay positive. You know, that's what we do. That's our job. So people are in fear. But, yeah, our lifestyle has changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're definitely cleaner.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
A lot more sanitary. Thank God for that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your sharing what you're sharing.
Yeah. But to be safe, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess do you feel like there are positive indicators as far as the spread of the virus decreasing at all, or do you have much of a sense as far as statistics?
Right now, we're under control. We're not.
Yeah.
You know, we created a lot of teams, a lot of spreads. When I do work in several different places, one place I work in, you can't even go in unless you have a temperature check. And when I go to Costco and Home Depot, I usually have a positive spin, and I say, "Hey, when are you guys going to check my temperature next?" They're like, "Oh, we ordered already." So things are getting controlled. All the beds we have are not. We don't need. So patients, you know, at first we got old patients, right? They were the crew members. Now we have young patients.
Yeah.
That kind of sad. But the young patients getting, you know, they're being shipped out. They're getting better. They're getting shipped out. The older patients are a little struggling, but this thing has, we haven't got anything teenagers yet, but other people have. I think we're getting a better control. We're definitely knowing how to handle these patients better. The people that used to be in fears, now it's like, you know, I have coworkers being sent home because they have temperatures. Lucky for us, we take good care of us, and we try to minimize it. But the fear is like, now it's a way of life. We practice safely, a lot more safely, no more cutting corners. In the past, no more. I think we're getting it under control, right, in the medical side anyway. But the society is another different thing, right? So the more education, the better. People come in, they're very educated. Some people are asking for the drug, the president promised, promote, and that's political, and that's also very dangerous.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just wait for the signs. You know, where it works. You know, unfortunately, it's the country has a lot of bureaucrats. You know, have to go through a lot of things, a lot of red tapes. But I think we're getting better handle of this.
Got it.
People are not calling sick. I heard immigration judges were calling sick in San Francisco. I saw in the news, and they were like 5, 6 people calling sick, and just to shut down the court.
Got it. Yeah. Right now, the whole immigration court system is shut down, except for detained processes, and so
those are mostly video anyway, right?
Yes, exactly. So right now, even this week, we've got a trial for a detainee, but we are going to do it through video, which is it's good for health that we can do it through video, but in my opinion, it's not good for the case. We can be so much more effective, right? Seeing the facial reactions of the judge to our client's testimony and being able to, you know, communicate better with our clients. But anyway, still it's good that we can fight these cases and hopefully win and get people out of there. And so that's what we're up to.
Yeah. So give us a good fight.
Yes, thank you, and you as well. And thank you so much for your contribution to our call, and thank you so much for your contribution to our community. You know, you really are on the front lines, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to know you, and grateful for the work you're doing.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, it's 10:45, and so I did say let's go ahead and wrap up today's call. Thank you so much for being here with me. and do what you can to stay positive. You know, we are facing a serious, challenging situation with all of this, and it does not need to affect and destroy and to bring down our own personal consciousness and our own personal ability to bring joy to others and to our own lives, okay? And so I really hope that we find ways, even through this time, to bring joy and bring positive energy to those around us. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. I'm Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration APC, where we fight for your American dream. Please join us for next week for our all-client call just like this. And please join us on Friday for our monthly seminar regarding the economic stimulus package for immigrants. All right. Take care. Bye.